Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be looking at some of the accessories you can use with your Olympus TG-6 or TG-7 or even some of the earlier models to expand the capabilities of those cameras. Firstly, I think we should think of the TG-6, 7 or earlier models as something of a system camera rather than a regular compact camera. I often refer to my own TG-6 as being something of a Swiss Army knife of a camera. It's equipped to do a lot of things, however it often doesn't exceed at absolutely everything. This is where the accessories come in. So folks, in this video I'm going to split it up into sections and we're going to look at particular accessories in those. I will timestamp them so you can jump to the areas where you think those are the accessories you're looking for. Firstly, we're going to look at lens caps. Do you really need one on a tough camera? We're going to be looking at twist versus threaded lens caps and look at those two types and see why I went for one over the other. We're also going to be looking at filters, what works with the TG series and what doesn't work with them, and yeah, you won't make the same mistakes I did, and hopefully will save you a little bit of your money. We're going to look at lens conversions as well and whether they are worth the investment, and finally other accessories including diving cases, chargers and other bits and pieces you may want to pick up for your own particular use for your TG series camera. First, we'll start with one of the cheapest accessories for your camera, and that is a lens cap. Should you buy one? Do you really need one for your Olympus or OM Systems tough camera? Well, Olympus and OM Systems do not supply a lens cap with the camera when you buy it, so clearly they don't think it's an absolute necessity. However, I have seen plenty of used examples on eBay where that front lens element has picked up scratches and damage. Similarly, I've seen concerned messages on Facebook groups saying, how can I get the scratches out of the lens of my TG system camera? I think personally a lens cap is a great addition to these little cameras. As an aside there, if you want to see some absolutely fantastic photography using the TG series cameras, head over to Facebook, join some of the groups, especially some of the underwater photos, things like that are absolutely stunning photographs taken with this little camera. So there are two types of lens caps available on the market, and they are offered by JJC and also Olympus. Yes, hang on, didn't we say that lens caps weren't necessarily with Olympus because they didn't include one in the box? Well, they want you to pay extra for one, and the only difference I can see between the two types of lens caps available in the market from two manufacturers is simply the price. So the two types of accessory lens caps available are the twist and the one which uses the threads on the front of your TG-6. Now I've got a twist one fitted to this, which is a Canon V10 power shot, and basically this is a little vlogging camera which I use. I don't need to have anything else fancy with it, and literally you just twist it, it opens and closes the lens cap. It's very handy. It stops me getting finger marks on the lens, which you tend to find when you're using this particular device anyway. One thing I would say is it isn't actually as dust proof as you'd imagine. Despite the curtains closing very tightly, dust can still get in, so it's not entirely infallible. So that's the JJC lens cap there. As I say, they do one for the TG series. Affordable, really good value. I'll put them on screen, the prices for them currently. Olympus do an OE version, and as far as I can remember, the JJC one actually came to market first, which is kind of bizarre, especially as that only costs $12.99, and as you can see on screen, the Olympus one is way more expensive. One thing I will say about this type of cap is that if you're planning to use any filters or anything like that, you won't be able to use it with the twist cap. which, bringing me on, is to why I went for this version on the front of the camera here. Now that simply attaches where the ring is currently, and you just use the bayonet fitting there, just line it up and reattach it. Now that, as well as coming with the lens cap, also came with a UV filter. Now I don't recommend a UV filter, I think they're quite pointless, to be honest. I wanted to be able to add filters to the front of my camera for particular photography tasks, so I decided not to go for the twist cap for my TG-6. This kit, which comes with the UV filter, the lens cap and the mount, costs around $18.99, and I think that's super value for money. Even though I didn't use the UV filter that it came with, I just think it's better value than the Olympus, which costs £7 more. All you get is the ring itself, no lens cap. Yes, you can attach filters, but you can't cover the front of the lens. So that's why I went for the JJC version. So as I say, this allows you to attach filters, but why would you want to do that? So filters can give a real different look to your photography, and I think that some of these filters can really enhance some of the fantastic settings that is available inside these TG cameras. The first filter I would recommend you pick up is a polarizing filter. So if you're not familiar with a polarizing filter, basically you would circular polarizer, you twist it to increase or decrease the amount of effect of the polarizing filter, and what it will do is it will enhance skies, so the skies look bluer, the contrast between the clouds is better. Also fantastic for cutting down on reflections on water, so if you're taking photographs of a lot of rivers, lakes, things like that, brilliant. And if you're out in the wet, which is ideal for a waterproof camera like the TG-6 or OM Systems TG-7, then you can take photos of foliage, and this will cut down all of the glare coming off wet leaves and the like. Number 2 on my list is this. This is a neutral density filter, or ND filter as they're often referred to. Basically, Olympus has a fantastic setting in this camera where you can use live composite mode, where you can take fantastic light trails of vehicles, or perhaps you're doing star trails for like astrophotography. You need to use this camera on a tripod for that type of photography, but what this little filter allows you to do is to do all of that during the day, shooting daylight subjects. So for example, you want to do a nice long exposure of the seascape so that it smooths out all the sea. You can do that with this camera in combination with one of these ND filters. Similarly, if you've seen lots of long exposure photos of waterfalls where the waterfall or the river is sort of blurred and it gives that idea of motion rather than freeze framing everything, well, this is what you need, an ND filter. They do come in different strengths, but basically all work on the same principle. Is basically they make the camera operate at a slower shutter speed, and you can watch that on the back of the camera with that live composite mode, and then decide when to end the image when the photo is exactly how you want it. I think for the small investment, I think this one cost me about £10. Well worth doing in order to get creative with your photography. So one filter I suggest you don't bother with is an infrared filter. Now, I thought this would be a great idea. We've got live composite mode in this camera. It should be fantastic, get loads of infrared images. It doesn't matter about the exposure because I've got live composite there to make sure I get a nicely exposed image. However, all I ended up doing was getting a pink red dot in the center of the image, ruining the photograph altogether. Now, I know the red dot issue is something that happens sometimes with these cameras, even in normal mode. However, this will just basically default to doing that with the infrared filter. So save your money, don't bother getting one of these. Okay, so our next accessory is ring lights and flash diffusers. Again, these accessories are offered by two companies, your Olympus OM Systems and also JJC. It pretty much depends whether you really want to go with the original equipment or you want to save a few quid and go with an aftermarket one. So the first accessory I want to talk about is the Olympus LG1 LED guide light, which is a ring light effectively. I've got that attached to the front of the camera now. So I wasn't planning to use my Olympus underwater for diving or anything like that, so the LG one fitted the bill. It attaches to the front of the camera in place of the regular lens ring on the front, and as you can see, it's covering the flash there. It's hollow. Now when I first bought this, I was convinced it had some kind of LEDs in it, something like that, so that's why I went for the Olympus version. In fact, what it does is basically the flash flashes, it runs down here and basically illuminates this bit here. So you just hold it down, the camera will bring the flash on. As you can see, you've got that light there, and it will just take photos until you release the shutter, and it illuminates your subject. So what it's doing there is, if you're taking photos of insects or anything close up, it's going to provide plenty of light. Absolutely fantastic bit of kit, but again, if you wanted to save some money, you could go for the JJC version. I picked up mine a few years ago when it cost around £25. Now it retails for an eye-watering $39.99, believe it or not, when there are no electronics in it. It's not a complicated bit of equipment, and it's hard to justify, especially when you consider that the JJC version is a mere $21.99. So the other option is the FD1 waterproof flash diffuser. This is a waterproof alternative costing $49.99. As far as I'm aware, it operates in the same way as the LG1. It will offer softer light. It is waterproof. You can use it for diving. You probably won't see the reflected little patterns that you get with the LG1, as it is a smoother white ring. However, would you pay $49.99 when JJC offer a very similar alternative for just $24.99? So now we'll move on to lens conversions. There are 3 conversion lenses available for the Olympus or OM Systems Tough camera series, and I own 2 of them, and I'll mention the other one as well. So you've got 2 wide-angle lenses and 1 telephoto. So first we'll look at this one, which is the T-Con T01 from Olympus, and basically it's not a lens in itself, it's more of a teleconverter. So you simply put it on the end of your camera, if you've got the conversion ring of course. So there's some more expense on the top of spending on the lens. So basically it isn't a zoom lens, it's a fixed focal length, and basically what you do is you would use your rocker switch on the top of the camera to zoom fully out, and then you would add this lens to increase that maximum zoom. So whilst it does add more zoom to your lens, you've got to think that the RRP on this lens is a very expensive £139. I have seen it on offer as low as £77 in the past, so look out for offers on it. Would I pay full price for it? Well, I didn't pay that kind of money. I did pay close to that, and in hindsight, is it really worth the money? Probably not. However, if the TG series camera that you own is your only camera, then perhaps it is worth the investment, because if you're a hiker or something like that, being able to just put that in your pocket alongside the camera will give you a lot more options for some photography, for pulling in things from a distance. I'm going to put some examples on screen showing you how much closer this does get. but it isn't exactly a cost-effective piece of kit. So moving on now to one of the wide angle lenses that I've got, which is this, the FCON T01. Again, screw thread, screws to the front of the camera and gives you a real distorted fisheye effect. Now apparently what this is best at doing is for underwater use. So whilst I've not tried the camera in a diving situation yet, I did take some photos at Colomero's Castle in Spain when we were there on holiday last year, and it allowed you to get a full view of your subject at a very close distance. So it does have some tricks up its sleeve, and certainly would be one I would consider buying for this camera, and certainly possibly a better investment than one of the telephoto lenses. Now what else I would say is that at £129.99 I think it is quite expensive. Do look on the used market. I managed to pick up mine for £40 in pristine condition on eBay. There is a second wide angle lens which seems to be a halfway house between the two lenses with an RRP of £179.99. I can't see any reason why you would choose this over the FCON T01. Scuba divers, you may prefer this lens. Let me know in the comments below if that's the ideal lens for scuba diving. So the list goes on for accessories for the TG series. Now I did invest in some of these, which are Savies, which are the plastic screen protectors, which you can see on the back of the camera there. Downsides to these ones, well, in the heat they do kind of move a little bit. I don't think the glue is particularly fantastic. Less permanent than, for example, the type of toughened glass that you get for your mobile phone, and perhaps I should have invested in something like that. The other accessory I managed to pick up was a charger, because of course with the TG-6 or TG-7 you only get a cable to charge the battery in camera, and I particularly don't like doing that. I like to be able to have plenty of battery power if I'm out for a day or so with the camera. So it came with two aftermarket batteries. I know people don't like aftermarket batteries because they don't last as long, but the way I see it, if you've got backup, then it's better to have something than nothing. And certainly I use the Olympus battery first, and once that's depleted then I move on to the aftermarket batteries. And again, this was really cheap when I picked it up. I think it was around about £18 I think, including two batteries, which is an absolute steal. I have found one there online up to about £30 odd. Shop around, because there are good ones available for less, and some less good ones for more, as often is the case with online shopping. So on to a couple of items I didn't buy for my TG camera, and that is firstly a silicone cover for the body. Now I have heard people say that they had difficulty pressing the buttons and things like that with the silicone body in place, and others said it just attracted dust. So I gave that one a wide berth. Whilst it is nice to keep that lovely shiny red paintwork in pristine condition, not being able to use the camera to the best of its abilities I think is a non-starter really. So the other thing I haven't purchased for my own TG-6 is a diving case. Now there are several available online. I'll put them on screen now, but basically one of the reasons is I don't actually use this camera underwater, certainly not in salt water, and I haven't been diving with it. I don't want to risk it in salt water, to be honest, and I'd rather use one of my old action cameras, and should the worst happen, it's not such a great loss. So folks, that's my little roundup of all the accessories I use with my own TG series camera. Now if you are interested in any of these items, I don't have any affiliate links. I don't believe in them. I'm not sponsored by either JJC or Olympus or OM systems as they are now, or any of the filter manufacturers, things like that. So yeah, this has all been out of my own pocket, but if you would like to help the channel out, then of course please feel free to buy me a coffee or hit me up with a super thanks here on YouTube. That all goes to help me recover some of the investment and also bring you more videos like this. If there are any sponsors out there who would like to sponsor the channel, I'll be more than grateful to do more videos. In the meantime, if you can't afford any of that, a good old thumbs up and a comment down below will help me enormously. So thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.